10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our special live stream for International Women's Day. Today, we are celebrating amazing women in STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, arts and design, and math. My name is Hiba, and I'll be the host for today's event. I would like to begin by gratefully acknowledging that the Science World is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. We are going to have some amazing science demonstrations, show you some fun activities you can try with your class, and meet an incredible STEAM mentor who works creating on computer animation. We would also like to thank SAP and Acuitas for their generous support of these events. Our technician, Brian, will be monitoring the chat. If you have any technical issues, he would be happy to assist. Please feel free to use the chat to share any questions or your reactions to the demonstrations and activities. Our presenters will also be asking you questions, and we are very excited to hear all your ideas. We ask that you keep comments in the chat respectful and relevant to the topics being discussed, and remember not to share any personal information online. Please feel free to share your ideas, questions, and the reactions in the chat at any time. If you would like to try out the chat, we would love to hear where you are joining us from and how many people are watching at your location. Now it is time for my friend Kirthana from Science World to show you some very fun science demonstrations.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Thank you so much, Hiba. I am super excited to be here with you, coming to you straight from inside the dome of Science World to share some of the really cool science that we have for you here today. So we're going to start off with something a little heated. I am going to come over here and show you some really cool science. So I've got two pieces of paper here. Now, they look kind of different. Can someone tell me in the chat what some of those differences might be that you can see just by looking at these two pieces of paper? So that could be in terms of shape, that could be in terms of how they look right here. They all look a little bit different. So let me know if you see anything interesting happening while you're doing that, because we are going to be doing something with fire here in a second. I'm going to make sure I'm being as safe as possible. So I'm going to tie back my hair to make sure that we're being super safe.
Oh,
I'm going to
that's
put
great,
on my
Kirthana.
super science safety goggles.
Yeah, we need all the safety we can get here for all of our cool science experiments today.
Absolutely. We want to be super safe when we're doing science. So I've got on my goggles. I've also got this tray of water here. And right next to me, I've got my handy dandy fire extinguisher. Okay, so I am a trained adult doing these fire demonstrations, so please remember that I am trained in how to do this super safely, so we can have fun and be safe while doing science at the same time. Ooh, okay, so I can hear that Riley says that the right one is jagged. Absolutely. So they've got a little bit of a different shape here in terms of the way that they're cut. One of them is a little bit more jagged. For sure. But you know what? I think just by looking at them, I don't know if we can tell too much of a difference. So I am going to actually burn them to see if they react any differently. So I'm going to start off with this one here. Now I'm going to get you to count in your heads how many seconds this actually takes to burn completely. I'm going to count in Science World. So 1 Science World, 2 Science World, and we're going to see how long it takes for this piece of paper to burn. And then we'll compare it to the other one and see what happens. Okay, so is everyone ready? I'm going to get my lighter started here. Okay, we're going to go in 3, 2, 1. 1
right.
Science World, 2 Science World,
Science World,
3
Science World.
4
Oh my
Science
gosh.
World, 5 Science Worlds. That looks like about 5 Science Worlds. Okay, so we can definitely see that it burnt, right? We have a little bit of this residue left over. And we've got some ashes going. I also noticed that there was some smoke coming up, rising from this. So that's kind of interesting. Let's compare it to the other one. Now, I want you to tell me if you think that this second piece of paper is going to take more time to burn, less time to burn, or about the same. So let me know. I'm going to go ahead and get this ready here. And you can think about which one you think is going to take longer to burn. Okay.
Ooh, good question, Kirthana.
We're going to make some predictions. That's what science is all about. Think about what's actually going to happen based on some of the knowledge and observations that we've already made. All right.
Yeah, Riley mentioned that it was jagged, so I wonder if that would help.
I wonder if the shape actually has an effect. That would be super cool to think about. More time. Ooh, okay. So we have someone saying that it might take more time to burn. That is super exciting. All right. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm ready to test it out and see what happens. So same thing. We're going to count in science worlds again and pay really close attention to what ends up happening. Okay. In 3, 2, 1. One science world, 2 science world.
Oh my gosh.
Whoa. Heba, what do you think? Do you think that took less time or more time?
Well, I mean, it seems like it only took 2 science worlds, and the other one took 5 science worlds. Huh.
Ooh, okay. And it looks like most of the students thought it might take more time. So that's actually super, super interesting. So we can kind of tell right now that these are maybe 2 different pieces of paper. The first one took about 6 science worlds. This one took 2 science worlds. And I'm going to tell you that is exactly the case. The second piece of paper that I burnt is something called flash paper. So flash paper is made of a material that we like to call nitrocellulose. So it's made out of something a little bit different. The first piece of paper was a regular paper towel that I used. And then the second one was that nitrocellulose. It is actually really, really good at holding on to oxygen. And we all know that oxygen is required to make things burn really, really hot. And so because it's got that oxygen it's able to grab, we can actually see a much bigger fire come up. We can see it burn really, really bright. Valerie noticed that it took less time. Exactly. I love that we're making all of these different observations here. So we can see that it took a lot less time. There wasn't actually any ash left over because it's what we like to call a complete combustion. So it completely burnt up. And we saw that it was definitely very, very different to look at. So that's something that we can do here at Science World. I've got something else to show you as well. And it is quite the colorful demonstration. So I've got over here this flask of water. Now, right now, it doesn't have any colors on it. It's just a glass of water. I'm going to add what we call an indicator to this water. Specifically, this is something called bromothymol blue. So it's a chemical that we can actually add to tell us a little something about the solutions that we have in front of us. So indicators are going to tell us whether something is acidic or basic. Now, those are 2 of the different ways that we can classify different chemicals. Sometimes they are a lot more sour if they're acidic, and sometimes if they're basic, they're a little bit more bitter. So we can tell just by looking at the color that it changes. So I'm going to add a little bit of this bromothymol blue here. Okay. So I can see right here that this is a very nice blue color. That means that water isn't exactly acidic or basic. It's kind of neutral. So it's right in between. Now I'm going to add something called vinegar. You might have seen vinegar before. It might have been in your kitchen maybe. So let's see what happens when I add this vinegar to this flask.
Oh,
whoa!
Nice.
Okay, so vinegar is something that is called an acid. And acids, when we add them to bromothymol blue, turn a different color. So we can use these indicators to tell us a little bit more about the compounds that we're working with here. And that is the science I've got for right now. Heba, I'm going to throw it back to you to see what else we have today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kirthana. That was very, very fun. We enjoyed learning about flash paper and bromothymol blue, an indicator for acids or bases. We now have a video to show you a simple chemistry activity that you can try at home to make your own miniature rocket.
Hi, I'm Jess, and today we're going to be looking at the wonderful world of rockets. The basic principle behind rockets is Newton's third law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Rocket engines work by throwing mass in one direction, and as a result, they go in the opposite direction. For rockets that go to space, they use rocket fuel that the engine burns as high-pressure gas. And as a result, they go up, way up. If you want to try this at home, we won't be using rocket fuel. Instead, we're going to be using Alka-Seltzer tablets. Safety is a priority. The citric acid and the sodium bicarbonate, baking soda, produce carbon dioxide gas. That's the bubbles you're seeing there. Now, if we can trap that gas in a small container, the buildup of the pressure of gas, which takes up more space than a liquid, will cause the container to go off in the other direction. So in order to do this at home, you're going to need one of these old-fashioned things: a film canister, some water, and an Alka-Seltzer tablet. If you want, you can decorate your film canister like this, put some paper on it, you've got a beautiful rocket. Make sure you keep the opening open though, so that you can pour the water and put the Alka-Seltzer tablet in. Take your rocket, take your water, and you fill the canister about 1/3 to 1/4 full. Take half a Alka-Seltzer tablet. Now this next step has to be done very quickly. When we add this, the carbon dioxide gas is going to build up and it's going to push the lid off. And as a result, it's going to go in the opposite direction. Put this one in, get our lid on, wear your goggles for protecting your eyes, step back, and wait. And there you have it, a mini rocket launcher. Here at Science World, we like to do things big. So to use our bigger rocket, we're going to have to take things outside. So here we are outside in our Ken Spencer Science Park, where we can make the reaction even bigger. This time, instead of using a film canister, we're going to be using an empty 2-liter pop bottle. And instead of creating a gas, we're going to be building up air pressure. What we need is our 2-liter pop bottle, a bike pump, and then a setup that allows our bike pump to seal the bottle in place just like that. Like before, we're going to be using Newton's third law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. In this case, we're going to put 7 pumps of air. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now there's all of that air pressure right in there. As soon as we launch it, all the air will be pushed out and the rocket will go in the opposite direction. Let's take a look. 3, 2, 1, launch. Woo! That was pretty good, but I think we can make it even better. Force is mass times acceleration. So if we can increase the mass, we might be able to get even more of a reaction. If more mass is being thrown out of the rocket, it might go even higher. We're going to use H2O, also known as water, and just put a little bit in our bottle in here. You don't need too much. That should do the trick. Again, put it in our contraption, seal it up, and we'll leave everything else the same. 7 pumps of air, and we'll see what changes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's check it out. 3, 2, 1, launch. And that's the wonderful world of rockets. Woo! I wasn't going to this time. Okay, and I'm really going to try not to scream this time.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, I'm reading in the comments. Looks like Division 8 loves rockets. And like Jess, Nikki also got a good scare from that. So Jess actually used to work at Science World, and now she shares fun STEAM activities at the Science Museum in London, England. And a few years ago, she got to show some robots to a pretty special visitor. So for those of you who can see the picture on the screen, that is, of course, the Queen of England. And today is actually the anniversary of the day that Jess met the Queen, which is very, very exciting. And it's also International Women's Day. So lots of fun things that are happening. We would also like to thank BCIT and Scotiabank for their support of all of our Girls and STEAM events. All right, Kirthana, what do you have for us now?
All right. So, since a lot of us were actually quite keen about the color change that we saw earlier, I've got one more color change to show you here. So, I've still got my bromothymol blue in the vinegar solution. So, I mentioned that it's acidic. We can see that it's nice and yellow. I think my mom would probably make that noise too.
I think so too.
All right. So, we've got this. It's nice and yellow right now. Now, I mentioned that I added vinegar. I'm actually going to add something else, and I kind of want to see if it changes, if it makes anything different happen. So I've got some baking soda right here. Now, you might have heard before of an experiment that you can actually do at home that involves baking soda and vinegar as well. Maybe it is quite the fun experiment. So think about whether or not you have seen something like that before and what actually happened when you mix baking soda and vinegar together. Now, right now, we are going to be looking at the color specifically. So I'm going to grab a little bit of my baking soda here. All right.
If anyone has predictions, feel free to pop it in the chat. We're very excited.
Yeah, I want to hear what everyone says. I want to hear what everyone's thinking. So we've got this right here. It is nice and acidic. I wonder if I can change the color by adding baking soda. All right, so I've got my spoonful of baking soda here. Now, the really fun thing about acids and bases are all of the things that I'm using today are things that you can actually find at home. So baking soda, vinegar. Another really good indicator if you can't find bromothymol blue is actually cabbage juice. So cabbage juice, if you take a red cabbage, boil it in some hot water, you get something called anthocyanin. And that's another really great indicator that you can try some of this stuff out with. Just make sure that you have an adult with you and you're using exactly what we're using. Ooh, okay. So Sandy says, we think that there's going to be a chemical reaction. I'm also seeing Jaden says it will erupt. Ooh, and I think Ezra says we make volcanoes with baking soda and vinegar and it exploded. Yeah, I think we're on the right track here. It might not be as big, but we're definitely looking for that color change. Ooh, Noah predicts it'll turn green. Okay, let's try it out. Let's see what happens. So we're going to add in our baking soda.
All right.
Give it a little bit of a mix. Did we see any color change?
Nice. That's awesome. I think we had one prediction that was almost pretty much spot on.
Yeah, exactly. So someone predicted that it would turn green, and this definitely looks green to me. So what happened when we added that baking soda was we actually turned the solution basic. So it was acidic when we added the vinegar, we turned it basic, and that bromothymol blue helped us see exactly that. Ooh, Olivia predicted that it'll turn brown. Yeah, we're definitely seeing that color change here. It looks a little bit brownish as well, maybe on the camera.
Yeah.
We're definitely seeing that color change. So again, acids and bases are super, super cool. And chemistry is a really, really cool thing that we can do as well at home. Chemistry is all around us. All we have to do is think about what's going on, make those predictions, and see what happens. All right. So now we've actually got one of our animal ambassadors that we can show for you right now. So you might recognize this if you've ever played Minecraft before. This is an axolotl. This is actually the axolotl that we have here in Science World in our search gallery. If you've ever been to Science World before, you can pop in and meet our friend here. This is an axolotl. They are a species of salamander that is native to Mexico. And our friend here, his name is Xochimilco. So he's actually named after the one lake that they're found natively in the wild. So the lake is called Lake Xochimilco. And this is our friend Xochi for short. And you can see that he's got some really, really cool and interesting things on him. So you can definitely see those things that kind of look like hair. I am actually wondering if anyone knows what those are. So before I dive into them, what do you think those are? So I'll give you a hint. He lives underwater and he needs to breathe somehow. And those things help him breathe. Does anyone know what those are called? So
Oh,
fish
that's a
have
good
them.
question.
Yeah. It's super interesting to think about. I don't know if anyone's ever seen anything like that before, but they live underwater. Ooh, Bay says gills. Exactly. Yeah. So those are actually his gills. They have what we call external gills. They actually stick out. Now, he lives underwater. They do also have a little bit of a lung. So lungs are what we use to breathe in the air. They also have lungs, but they're much better at breathing underwater for sure. Now, he's got a really, really cool color. So he's kind of this like muddy brownish color. And that actually helps him in his environment. So he lives underwater. How do you think that color would actually help Xochimilco in his environment? Lucas guesses they help him breathe his lungs. Absolutely. Exactly. Yeah. So this axolotl here, the coloring that he has is what we like to call wild type. So this is the color that they are found in the wild naturally, but axolotls actually come in a lot of different colors. So sometimes they can be glowing green, sometimes they can be more of a pinkish color, but this is what we call the wild type coloring. So does anyone know what that color helps him with? So this is our friend here. He is swimming. So he's got a tail. Now, he does swim, but he definitely is really, really good at walking a lot more. A really cool thing about axolotls is they can actually regenerate parts of their body. So what that means is if, for example, he loses part of his tail, he can actually grow it back. And what's so fascinating about them is they can even grow back parts of their brains. So that's super,
Wow.
super cool. Ooh, Stella says camouflage. Exactly. Yeah. So his coloring helps him hide in sort of the muddy parts of the lake, under branches, under rocks. So he's really good at sort of hiding from anything that might want to eat him. He's really good at that because he actually doesn't have super great eyesight. So axolotls, they don't have eyelids and they don't have super great eyesight. And so being able to take anything that's helping them to survive is really, really great. Ooh, we're seeing lots in the chat saying that it is camouflage. You're absolutely right. Wyatt, I agree. Definitely does look super cool. Awesome. Charlie says camouflage. Amazing. Yeah, so this is axolotl here. This is our axolotl, Xochimilco. And if you pop by the search gallery, you'll be able to see him and all of our other animal ambassadors on your next trip to Science World. Thanks. All right, Hiba, I will pass it back to you to see what's next.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kirthana. I definitely will be popping by the search gallery the next time I visit Science World to visit our axolotl friend. So we'd now like to introduce our special guest for today, who also makes some pretty cool things. Shazzy is a computer animator who uses the Unreal Development Supervisor at WildBrain Entertainment and creates her own cartoon, Mitzi Makes It, which is aimed at inspiring girls through STEAM learning. Shazzy also teaches coding workshops for guide groups interested in exploring coding and robotics. Please welcome Shazzy.
Hi, thank you.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Happy International Women's Day. So yeah, I work at WildBrain. This is their logo, and they make a lot of different TV animation. And my background is actually in computer science. So I learned how to code, but I always wanted to work in animation and make cartoons. So in my free time, I started working on my own little piece of animation called Mitzi Makes It, and I'm going to actually show you how I kind of set up a scene and I bring my character to life. And the Unreal Engine is a piece of software, and it's the same software used in Fortnite. So if you've played Fortnite or you know what Fortnite is, you know it's a video game, but I take that and I use it to make cartoons instead. So we're going to look at my screen here, and this is the Unreal Engine, and you can see Here is Mitzi's little workshop. She's kind of like a creator and a builder. And if we go in here, here is Mitzi. And how I actually bring her to life is Mitzi is me. And I have my iPhone right now and it's capturing my face and it's talking back to the computer. So as I'm talking, you can see she's talking, I'm blinking, moving my head around, all that kind of stuff. So when I make my videos, I'll write my little script and then I'll just record them as Mitzi. And then I can go and animate those and add cameras and really bring it to life. So I'm going to stop moving her head around so I can show you a bit more. And if there's like any questions or if you want me to like do anything in this world, just let me know. It's always super fun. But everything in here is kind of pieced together just like real life. You can move stuff around. We can make it really big. So you have like a giant chair. We can change the color. And this is how any animation you watch is made. Someone designs the chair, they decide how it looks, the color of it, they build this whole world, all these pieces coming together. So if we want to change the chair, we can just go like this and change it into whatever color we want. So it's really cool. I like designing different spaces and things like that. And same thing, we can take Mitzi and we can make Mitzi really big. So let me bring her out here because she's huge now. And then the fun thing too is I have a little animation library. So everyone always asks like, well, your face brings her face to life, but what about her body? And so I have different little body animations that I can use to kind of, again, piece together and tell my story. So we have her dancing here. And then let's see, we have a good amount of funny ones. Here's maybe she's like sitting and talking. So you can imagine I combine my face with her body and she comes to life that way. Could Mitzi play Minecraft? No, she totally could. She could play Minecraft. And what I've actually started trying on the side is building Mitzi in Roblox. So that's been a adventure for sure, learning something new. But definitely trying that. So we have her body movements, we have her world, we have different lights, so we can play with lights as well. So we can kind of bring this light, we can change the color of the light. So it's like we have like a blue light on her. We'll make it super bright so you can really kind of see it. So all these pieces come together to make all of the animation you watch. And there's so many people that do these. So if you're interested in design, you could be someone who literally just designs what Mitzi looks like or what her shop looks like. And then there's people called modelers, and they kind of sculpt the characters and make them three-dimensional, bring them to life, and then animators make them move. So can you accessorize Mitzi with a headband? Oh my gosh, great question. Yes. Let's see what we have. I have a crown for sure. And let's see this one. She has a crown. And I actually wrote a kid's book called Mitzi Makes It a Princess Crown. And she actually makes this crown. So you can see, actually I have the book on my desk. You can see it's the crown on the book. So Mitzi totally loves accessories. I also love accessories. Can I change the background? Yes. So right now it's a blue sky, but I can really make it any color. So like obviously we could make it nighttime. We could do like purple, which may be kind of like a sunset time and things like that. So you could change anything you want. And same thing in animation. Everything you see on the screen is just from people's ideas and thinking about what they can make. So all of these ideas that you're having, yes, totally. And can Mitzi sit on a chair? Yes, let's go. I'll bring the chair out here. Actually, we'll put her on, well, big Mitzi's kind of thing. So I'll leave Mitzi huge. So chair, and then we can move her over here. And she's on.
There we go.
And going with a theme of rockets, she does have her own little rocket on the wall to inspire her as well. So let's see, there's one more. Can she change colors?
Change
or do more than
colors.
one color at a time? Okay. Yes, as well. So I've done a couple like Halloween episodes with her where Mitzi had different costumes. So I made I can't quite change like the shape of her clothing, but we can put different colors on it. So this was, I think she was like a little witch. I think I had a clown outfit where we put like a little, I put like a red nose on her. So I'll just make like a really small red nose, pretend she has a clown nose. Like that, and we'll make it red. So everything in here too you can imagine they're just like digital props and accessories that you can use to build this out. Okay, there's our clown nose. How can you find Unreal Engine? Great question. Sorry, I keep saying great question. They're all such good questions. So Unreal Engine is actually free to download. If you just Google Unreal Engine, I think the website is literally unrealengine.com. They have tons of learning material. There's tons of resources on YouTube. They have their own like example projects that you can download, whether you're interested in animation or games. You can still use it to make games. So it's free to download. I think for video games, they only charge once you make more than like $1 million. So for people who just want to learn and play around, it's a really good resource and awesome. Looks like there's some links in the chat. So a lot of fun stuff in there. And this is what I use for work too. And more animations are starting to use it. So if you're definitely a little bit older and you're trying to think about, what you want to play with, if you've played with Minecraft, if you've played with Roblox and you like building those worlds and stuff like that, this is definitely kind of like that next step that the industry starts to use. So Mika asked, how do you control their movements? So these are called animation cycles. So they're just little loops of animation. And animated characters actually have skeletons like us that have bones. So I will show you. You can see Mitzi has, shoulders, elbows, knees, just like we do. And what an animator does, they go in and figure out what pieces of your body are moving to create that. So a lot of times animators will actually record themselves doing a motion to see all the pieces that are moving together. So if we go here, this is how a character starts. And you can imagine, if I'm waving, maybe my arm's down and it's turned a little bit. This is gonna be a really simple example, but then you kind of, this is at the most simplest form. And then you're like, well, maybe my elbow's bent a little bit, and maybe my fingers are relaxed. So you think about every single part of the body and how it moves. And then you kind of put, they're called keyframes. So you say, okay, at the beginning it does this, then halfway through it's doing this, and at the end I want it to do this, and you tell the computer how to move that. So it's really, really cool. There's also, this is kind of like the future side of cartoons, is there's suits that you can wear that have trackers in them. So you can imagine I could put on this cool suit, and if I start waving my hands, Mitzi would start waving her hands. It's really cool. I don't have one, but maybe one of these days I will have one, and I could like stand up and turn around, and Mitzi would stand up and turn around. They're very, very new though, which means they're really expensive. There's a couple different ways to like bring the body to life.
Awesome. Yeah, I've seen those kind of suits in movies and things like that. I think movies sometimes use those suits. So it's interesting to see that there are so many things that that are being used in different fields that are coming into computer animation and other fields. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Shazzy. I think we'll probably end questions there for now. And it looks like you did answer that last question with her other friends. So we do have Shazzy. Shazzy did make lots of other friends from Mitzi over there. Oh, this is a good last question to end.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm sorry. I have to do it because I do have her flossing, and we will end on we will end on the floss. I'm sorry if we are over time, but I have it.
No, that's okay.
Really proud of it. I wish I could say it was me doing the floss on her, but we have it.
Awesome. Well, Lucas, that answered your question there. And thank you so much, Shazzy, for joining us.
Thank you.
Shazzy will be sticking around until the end of the program. So if you did have any more questions for Shazzy, there's a chance at the end to get to know a little bit more. And for those of you who are asking, we have popped the links to Unreal Engine in the chat. So you can go check out those links there. So Shazzy showed us some fun ways to make things big and small on the computer. Kirthana, do you have any demonstrations that could show something similar?
I do, actually. So we've got some really, really fun stuff to end off with here in terms of my portion, and it involves my friend over here. So this is my friend, Buddy the Balloon. Now, Buddy the Balloon is a balloon, and he's got a bunch of air in him. Now, there's some really, really cool things that we can do with air because air is always moving around. It's moving in a bunch of different directions all at once. And air can actually push on things really, really powerfully. So I'm going to take my friend, Buddy the Balloon, and I'm going to put him in an air chamber. I'm going to put him in a vacuum chamber. So basically, what I'm going to do is put my friend Buddy in here. So basically, what this is a vacuum chamber connected to a vacuum pump. Now, what's going to happen when I turn on this pump is I'm actually going to push some of the air that's in this chamber outside of the chamber. I'm going to move it out. So I want to ask you, what do you predict will happen to our friend Buddy the Balloon when I push some of the air outside of this chamber? So let me know if you have any predictions. And in the meantime, I'll just mention here, so air can push on things really powerfully. As I mentioned, when air pushes on things really, really strongly, it's called high air pressure. And when air pushes on things kind of weakly, that's called low air pressure. And air can do some really cool things. So if you've ever been on an airplane before, the wings of an airplane are often held up by air pushing up on the wings. So that's actually how part of it is staying in the air, is because of just the way that air can push on things. So, okay. So we have some predictions here. Ryan predicts that Buddy will go upwards. That is super interesting. We also have some size predictions. So Reese says he's going to get bigger. Ezra and Sella say it's going to get smaller. Sarah says Buddy will explode. And Aiden says it will pop. Awesome. And we've got Charlie predicting that he's going to float up into the air. Okay. And Mika and Molly predict that it will change color. This is super interesting. I think that'd be kind of cool if I could get him to change color. All right. So what we're going to do is actually turn on this pump now, and we'll take a look at what happens to our friend Buddy the Balloon when I push some of this air out. In 3, 2, 1. Whoa. Okay, so our friend is getting bigger and bigger and whoa! That's kind of cool.
Allie's prediction was exactly what happened. There you go.
Absolutely. Yeah, so our friend got really, really, really big, and then he popped. So let's talk about why that happened. So basically, when I pushed some of that air outside of that chamber, the air that was inside of Buddy got moving. It was still moving the way it was before, but now it could push out against the outsides of that balloon, and there wasn't as much air in the chamber pushing against it. So it was able to grow really, really, really big. And it got so big that it actually ended up popping. And all of that we did just by changing the amount of air that we had in the chamber. Now, I've got one more thing to show you here, which is kind of similar. I've got a different friend, Marshy the Marshmallow. How many of us have had a marshmallow before? And if you have, you probably know that marshmallows are kind of squishy, and that's because they've got a bunch of air pockets in them. So let's see what happens when Marshy the marshmallow is in this air chamber. In 3, 2, 1. Oh,
Oh boy.
I think our friend Marshy's getting quite big too. That is a pretty big marshmallow. Oh, he's almost running out of room there. Let's give him some more room here. Let's give him some more air. Oh.
I was excited to eat that marshmallow. It seemed like a good way to like trick my food to make there be more marshmallow than there actually was.
Right? Yeah, that's a pretty big marshmallow. We could eat all of that. That would be a really, really cool thing to do. But I think our friend, he got a little smaller again. So once that air rushed back in, the same thing that happened to the balloon happened to our friend Marshy. So when I took some of that air out of the chamber, the air inside of those air holes was able to sort of rise and go and big, big, big. And then when that air came back in, it went really, really fast and squished our friend back down to regular size, maybe even a little smaller than he was before. But that is what I have for you. And I loved all of the predictions and all of the answers. So thank you so much, Heba. I will give it back to you.
Thank you. That was awesome. So for everyone listening today, I was going to say at home, but I guess most people are at school. We now have time for any questions that you might have for Shazzy or Kirthana. So please feel free to type them in the chat. And meanwhile, maybe I'll ask a question to both of you. So today is, of course, International Women's Day. So what does that mean to you guys? Are you guys celebrating in any way? Are you remembering anyone in particular? For me, I'm remembering my mom today because she's a really powerful woman to me, and she's been a very important person. So for International Women's Day, I'm thinking about my mom a lot. Kirthana, what about you?
Yeah, for International Women's Day, I am super excited to be able to be here and talk about science. And I'm going to go and keep talking about science because that's what I love to talk about. And I'm here to be thankful for all of the women that paved the road for where we are now with our current scientific understanding. All of their contributions helped us get to a point where we are currently right now. And we are super, super grateful to be able to share in their knowledge here today.
Awesome. Thank you. And what about you, Shazzy?
Yeah, I actually did a panel for my work today, which was really exciting with a bunch of different women in different departments, some that I've never met before, and just talked about all of our journeys and how we got there and things, that we struggle with and we were open with. And to be able to have, different artists and people at the company, relate and talk about, hard things that we go through and how we kind of navigated those and figured those out. I think it's important to do things like this and, outreach and show women role models and mentors and, just encourage any little girls, older girls, women, whoever, want to get into something, like, you got this.
That's awesome advice. Thank you. And Shazzy, I think people are kind of curious about a little bit about Mitzi Makes It. If you were able to talk a little bit about it, maybe, where can we watch it? How many episodes did you make? Things like that.
Sure. So it's on YouTube right now. If you just look up Mitzi Makes It, it'll be there. I think I have 10 videos that I've made, and they're really short. They're like 2 to 4 minutes. They're kind of aimed for, younger kids to just get into STEAM. I am the only person working on them, so I would love to have longer videos with all the characters and stuff like that. So it's definitely on YouTube. I have a website, Instagram, all that stuff. We'll try to post stuff. And then I also will, do sessions like this for classrooms and stuff, joining as Mitzi and all that. So hopefully one day she's on the big screen. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Kirtan, now we have a question for you. How old were you when you became a scientist? Oh, yeah, when you became a scientist. Do you have any early memories of science in general? Or we're all curious to hear.
Yeah. Well, I think the really cool thing about being a scientist is there's no minimum age. So pretty much everyone is already a scientist. So if you've ever gone outside and made an observation about the world around you, if you ever thought, hey, that leaf looks kind of cool, and you picked it up and you looked at the leaf, you're kind of already a scientist. I know for me, it was when I got this one book when I was really little. It was a big book of science experiments. And I remember going home and I was super, super excited. And I filled up a glass of milk and then I put some M&Ms on it and I watched the colors and the M&Ms all kind of swirl towards the middle. And I was like, wow, science is so cool. We can play around with candy and colors, and that's science. And I think that's when I was like, this is kind of an interesting thing to be in. But that's the really cool thing, is pretty much everything around us is science, and you're all already kind of scientists. So that's the little secret there, is you're already scientists.
That's awesome. Thank you. Shazzy, Marco is asking, what is your favorite part of animating?
I think my favorite part is definitely bringing like the characters to life. Because, like we all, how I talk, how I wave, how I walk, like everything is so unique to us as people. And when you start seeing that in like animated characters, I think it's just really funny and cool to see them like, oh, like that's Mitzi's little walk, and like no other animated character walks the same way. I think it's like finally like seeing that moment where you're like, oh my gosh, like it's alive. And I think that's really rewarding, especially when you start tying in like you're writing a story and you see it all really coming together, and you don't realize how much little things, like how a character blinks or tilts their head when they talk, adds to the story that's being told. So I think it's really rewarding, like seeing all that come together and realize like, oh, if I make her head go like this, it seems sadder or happier than her just, being still. So I think it's really cool to like use that as a way to bring stuff to life.
Awesome. Thank you. Kirtha, now we have a couple of axolotl questions if you're up for it. Cormac is asking what is the rarest axolotl? And Micah was wondering how many types of axolotls there are.
Ooh, those are some really interesting questions. So I'm not actually entirely sure what the rarest axolotl is. I know that the one that we have, Xochimilco, is the wild type. He's probably the most common axolotl. The rarest, I know they have some axolotls that are albino, which means they actually have no pigmentation in them. And normally those are quite rare as well. I don't know if that's the rarest, but those are definitely kind of rare. And the ones that I mentioned earlier that have a protein in them called green fluorescent protein, where if you actually put them under a sort of dark light, you'll be able to see them glow green. And those are also probably pretty rare because they're not found in sort of the wild. So those would probably be some of the rarer ones. I'm not sure if they're exactly the rarest. But that's a really, really good question. And in terms of how many axolotls or how many types of axolotls there are, so axolotl is one species, and then everything else is just sort of the different colorings that you can get within them. And so I've seen pictures of like 15 different types of axolotls before. And so I don't know if that's all there are, but there's definitely quite a number of different kinds that they can come in.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And if anybody is curious, the axolotl that we have here is located in the search gallery. So there are lots more facts that you can learn about it. You decide to come and visit us here at Science World. All right, Shazzy, I will give maybe one more question to you and we'll get the last question. This one's going to be a bit of a long one because I'm going to try to combine, because everybody's just asking so many great questions. It's just so difficult, which is awesome. So I was kind of wondering what your next plans are for Mitzi. Do you have any other kind of new friends that you're going to start making with Mitzi?
Yeah, sure. And I will also tie in because everyone's asking about like when did I start animating?
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah.
I actually not until college, and I didn't even start animating then. I studied computer science in college because I knew animation studios had computers and they needed programmers. So I was actually an engineer for quite a while. I worked at Nickelodeon for 4 years as an engineer on an immersive technology team. And then I went to WildBrain, and I'm still kind of more like on the engineering side of stuff. But for my Mitzi stuff, I kind of taught that myself. So really not until I was 18 did I start studying computer science, and not until I had graduated and got my first internship did I really even know how animation worked. And then moving forward with Mitzi, she does have a group of friends. There's Daisy, Jewel, Dude, Mr. Knot, and Splat, and they all have their own hobbies that kind of relate to their name. And right now I'm actually hoping to grow Mitzi, grow my team, and actually maybe have her, either longer episodes on YouTube or get onto one of the streaming channels, and also kind of keep working and making coding workshops and all of that, because it's not just a cartoon I'm making, it's, all the educational stuff and outreach stuff. So definitely keeping me busy, but maybe, one day she'll be on a red carpet.
Well, we look forward to seeing Mitzi walking on the red carpet. And that is all the time that we have for today, everyone. And we wanted to thank Kirtana and Shazzy for joining us to share their cool science today. And of course, thank you to everybody at home at school, for watching our broadcast today. If you would be interested in seeing any parts of this program again, the stream will stay active with the recording, and you can access it with the same link that you used to join us. And we do actually have another Girls in STEAM event, which is coming up on Saturday, March 26th. So for information about that and any other events, please feel free to visit us at scienceworld.ca/today/events. And I believe we'll have that link in the chat as well soon. So for the folks at school, thank you again for joining us. Please do let us know how you enjoyed the broadcast, and how many people are watching at your site, either in the chat, or we'll be sending out a survey to everybody soon. So please make sure to fill that out. All right, well, thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Happy International Women's Day, and keep exploring science. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.